So from our angle, this is the key. You have to identify where your angle's at. And we're looking at this angle here. And so in relationship to this angle, my R is the what? It's hypotenuse. Right? Remember, the hypotenuse is never adjacent and it's never opposite. It's always the hypotenuse. It's always the longest side of the right triangle. It's always opposite the 90-degree angle. So that's our hypotenuse. In relationship to the 50-degree angle, the 12 is which side? The opposite. And so then we go back to SOHCAHTOA. Sine, yeah. Sine is equal to opposite over hypotenuse. So sine of 50 is equal to 12 over r. Okay? We're teaching the same concepts right now in geometry. And so I know you've seen these before. So right now we're just kind of remembering what we did. The struggle I have with people is they try to break that sine of 50 up into two things, like it's two different quantities. But it's not. That represents one number. And most of you know on your calculator how to find that one number. The key is to make sure you match up with what they're doing, and this is in degrees. So you have to make sure your calculator is in degree mode, not in radians. Okay? But don't treat this sine 50 as if it's two different things. It's not a sine and a 50. It's sine 50. It's one number. And so make sure that you treat it that way. Okay? And it's really over 1. And so we have a proportion here, don't we? That's right. Equals 12 times 1 or 12. The reality is, when your unknown is in the bottom,
you multiply each side by r over 1, and then you get sine of 50 times r. Or you divide.
and then you would divide both sides by sine 50, right? So the reality is the shortcut to this, whenever the unknown's in the bottom, switch places with it. Switch places with a number out front. Sine 50 or tan 50 or cosine 50 or whatever it is. Okay? All right. So whatever it is, make sure that you switch places with the whole thing. And so R is about what? 15 point, okay, 7? If I round to the tens place? 15.7. If I wanted to solve for G, what would I use?
You use cosine, right?
Cosine. No. I would use tangent, sorry. Because I don't want to use R because I just solved for R, and R is a rounded value, right? And if I solved incorrectly, then G would be wrong. So I want to use tangent, the opposite and the adjacent. So I would say tan of 50 is equal to 12 over G. So G is going to equal what?
12 times 10 to 50.
No? When the unknown's in the bottom, you can switch places with the 2. 12 over tan 50. Okay? So just solve for G. Now that's not really a real world situation there. It's just a triangle, and we're solving for that triangle. Okay? If they say solve for the triangle, they mean find all the missing parts. Okay? So the directions solve for the triangle mean find all the missing sides and the missing angles. Okay? What's the measure of angle G?
40.
Yeah. Did I have to solve? What did I have to do?
Pythagorean theorem, or not? No, never mind. Just subtract it from 180.
Yeah. Or because this is a 90, these two have to add up to 90, right? So G is 90 minus 50, or 40, okay? So if I'm told to solve this, then I would need to find angle G also, which wouldn't be hard here. So now I've solved for that triangle. I know the hypotenuse, I know both legs, I know all three angles, okay? All right, moving on. We have a helicopter. We want to know how far is the helicopter from the house on the cliff. And so when the helicopter flies straight over top of my head, I can figure out how far away he is.
That is a great helicopter.
Yeah, I know.
Just wanted to let you know.
Some people can't draw great helicopters like that, but man, I can.
This is like the next level of airplane. It's like
Yeah.
planes.
It's new age helicopter stuff.
Mine looks like a spaceship.
Okay.
Real helicopters.
And those propellers are going so fast they look like they're bending. All right. Now, I very carefully with my instruments measured the angle from me to the top of the cliff to be 20.75 degrees. And I know the cliff is 1,200 feet high. And I want to find how far is the helicopter from the house and how far am I by line of sight from the house. Okay? And so if they use line of sight, they mean directly straight from here to here. All right? So how far away? So if we look at this, bottom triangle to begin with, I can solve for D. D is the what? And 1,200 is
Opposite.
opposite.
Sine.
So hypotenuse and opposite is
Sine.
sine. And so what would I write?
Sine of 20.75 equals 1,200 over D.
Okay. Willow, would you be willing to give me the next line? What could I write next? Right here. I want to solve this. What would my next step be? What would I write? Okay, so you're saying D equals 1,200 over, what'd you say? Sine of 20.75. That's correct. Whenever the unknown is in the bottom. I know every example so far the unknown's been in the bottom. It's not always going to be the case. But when it is, all you have to do is switch places with that trig ratio and the unknown. And so D is going to equal 1,200 divided sine of 20.75. I want to hear everybody's answer to this to make sure we're all getting the same answer. I want to know for sure you know how to use your calculator. And that you know that you're in the right mode.
3,387.05.
3,387.05. So 1? Or did you round to get to
Yes,
5?
I did.
I round to get to the 5.
So it's just 0.0?
Yeah, it'd be 0.0.
So, I'm sorry, I got distracted. Tell me again what you said?
3,387.05,
Okay.
or just 0.0 if you're on the top.
So if we round to the nearest tenth of a foot, which they're probably not, they're probably just going to say round to the nearest foot. And so we'll probably just stop there. So the distance from my feet to the house is 3,387 feet. Is that a mile?
No.
No.
It's about
It's like
40
40% of a mile, right?
It's a little bit over half.
Is it?
Yeah, because 5,000. Absolutely, be like 27.
Okay. more than 50% of it. Okay, I can buy that. All right. So now I want to find the distance a helicopter is away. Yeah, Max?
Well, I know what you're supposed to do, like, but well, couldn't you just find the bottom side, then that would be the same length as X?
And then you just find.
So, Kendra, do you agree with that?
About 60.
So he's saying that this side up here is the same as this side down here. Because I've created a rectangle in my picture, haven't I? And opposite sides are going to be equal.
So should the 1200 be the same as that?
So the 1200 would be the same as how high the helicopter is above my head. That's correct. This would be 1200 also.
So
Okay.
do you want us to find it using the functions, trig functions?
Yes.
Because you could just use Pythagorean theorem to do
You
that,
could, but then you're using a
it's not
number that you've rounded off
Yeah.
to get the next answer. And when you do things like that, you're asking for rounding errors. Okay? And I say that I call it a rounding error because you're not really doing anything wrong. It's just that you've rounded a number off, and so it's not an exact value anymore. And then you're using that non-exact value to find another answer,
But since it only
which
had,
can create errors.
since it only had 2 decimal places, though, you would you could still do it since it's not that much of a decimal.
Oh, you're saying it was exactly 0.05?
Yeah. Well,
No, it wasn't.
Okay. Some of your calculators are set to only show you a certain number of decimals. It sounds like yours is set at hundreds.
nope.
Okay.
I've got.
All right, well, we'll move on. So, setting this up, let's do it over here. Which triangle, Kendra, would you want to look at? The top one or the bottom one now that we've adjusted them both? Okay? And so from this angle, this is the what? And this is the, and if we use numbers that we know are true or they gave us, we're not using our answers we found. And by the way, what if I got the wrong answer here? Then, and I use that again, I'm for sure going to get the wrong answer in the next one, right? I guess there's always a chance I could do something wrong 12 times and end up with the right answer, but not what I want to try to do. So, what ratio is that? Tangent. So tan of equals 1200 over x. And I swear the unknown will not always be in the bottom. I know it's been there every time so far, but it will not always be in the bottom.
It won't be on the bottom if they give us the hypotenuse.
There you go. So x equals,
3167.
how about, let's do this first. 1200 over tan of 20.75, and you're telling me it's what?
Like 3,167.
I'm sorry, people are talking at you.
3,167.
3,167,
I don't know what's going on.
0.3.
just to the feet. We rounded this one to feet, so we'll round that one to feet. My tools for measuring my angle weren't accurate enough to go to tenths or hundreds.
You got crappy tools.
Yeah, crappy tools. Okay? All right. Any questions on that? All right, moving along. Problem you loved in geometry?
Oh, boy.
We want to find A. Oh, actually, this is an easy problem. I was thinking it was something else at first. A is called the what? Do you remember? Close. What'd you say? Apothem, apothem. I honestly don't know the proper way. It's probably one of those two. Okay, I usually call it the apothem, but I've called it apothem also. All right. By dropping this line perpendicular to this side, I'm creating the apothem. And so I have to discover some angles first. So what's the measure of each of these blue angles?
30 degrees.
How many of them are there in that
Oh, there's six.
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 So this 360 divided by 6 is 60. So that makes, if I cut it in half, that makes it a 30. And that makes that a 60. So I can look at this a couple different ways. I can use the 30 or the 60. Okay, Noah, which one would you like to use?
60.
The 60. So looking at this angle right here, I'll do it in green. A is which side, Noah?
Opposite.
Good. And the 13.3 is the hypotenuse. So opposite and hypotenuse is sine. Good. So sine of 60 equals A over 13.3. Ah, finally. The unknown's in the top. Am I going to use cross products on this? Or I'm going to do something simpler? I'm going to multiply both sides by this denominator, 13.3. And again, make sure you treat that as a number. If you watch this just for a minute, some people, I'll do it red because it's wrong. Some people try to multiply the 13.3 by 60 and then take the sign of it.
No.
Okay? That would be wrong. That's not 60, it's the sine of 60. That's like the square root of 5 is not 5, it's the square root of 5.
What?
It represents a number, right? Sine of 60 represents a number.
Like 6 roots of 5.
JV, you should leave and change your name to JV. No, JV.
Okay. All right, so what does this approximate to? 11.52. So they're in tenths, so I'm around the tenths. So 11.5.
I got 11.34.
Like it start.
No. No. Yeah,
Brady's
it's wrong.
never
Shut up, it's
wrong.
13.3.
I did 13.1.
Okay, it's the wrong number. All right, any questions on that?
Brady, you're never wrong. You're still.
Okay,
Don't talk to me.
I'm gonna pause. Yeah, no, I'm just gonna talk about this. Poor Alexis is caught on this cliff and in need of help. And her hero Megan down here, 1,500 feet away by line of sight, notices that she's at a 25-degree angle
She just knows.
from the
She
horizontal.
just knows that.
She notices it.
How long will Alexis
She's
fall?
really good with her judgments of angles. So, a couple terms we have to understand: angle of elevation and angle of depression. This word depression goes both ways. In this case, it has two meanings. She's fearful of falling off the cliff, so she's depressed. And as you look down from the horizontal is straight out from your eyesight. As you look down, that's angle of depression. If you're looking up, it's angle of elevation. Okay? So Megan down here looking up is looking at an angle of elevation. Looking down, Alexis sees an angle of depression. Okay? Because these lines are both horizontal, then the angle of depression and the angle of elevation will always be equal.
Is this one of those ones where you have to take the heights and then add that to the?
Well, I mean, it could be something like that. If I'm saying my eyes are 5 feet off the ground and my angle of elevation is 25 degrees, but I'm not doing that. In this example, I did
Can't
not do
see,
that.
Jared.
Okay? So an angle between the horizontal line and the line of sight from the observer to the object at a higher level is the angle of elevation. And if I copied that down again and said to an angle or to an object at a lower level, then it would be angled depression. You don't have to recopy it, you don't have to change it. I just want to make sure you understand, looking down from the horizontal is depression, looking up from the horizontal is elevation. Okay? So I'm going to pause this. You solved for D. We want to know how many feet she would fall to her death if she fell off the side of this cliff and Megan was not able to save her. So solve that. So the consensus is we got 634 feet approximately, because sine of 25 equals opposite over hypotenuse. And so D is going to equal 1500 times sine of 25. You said that's 634. Okay? All right, today's homework.
Yay.
I love homework.
I love.
I think there's only 10 problems there.
Seven.